I just got back from, I can't see, from I guess what I'd call an above average sup foil session, which for me means conditions were not horrible, like not a ton of challenges of wind or backwash or too shallow bar and all this reality of where I sup foil on the Outer Banks. But pretty clean, rideable waves. Caught, I don't know, dozen or two dozen, maybe not that many waves over a couple hours. Didn't really link any, so nothing great that way, but overall pretty good. But I have to confess, most of the time I was thinking, if I had a Foildrive, what would this session be like? And this is part one of one, or maybe part one of several videos to talk about my Foildrive endeavors. Like, we need one more testimonial about these things, like a hole in the head, but why would that stop me from doing it? Maybe just be fun to look at my own thoughts down the line a little bit. So I ordered a Foildrive after a good bit of consternation over the last few weeks. A bunch of my friends have them. They're having a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. And it seems like, it has the potential to take a lot of days that are frustrating days or not as good as today and make it fun. Like this week, I basically got skunked day after day after day for like 4 days because the wind was side on at 12. Just enough to make the surface conditions horrible for sup foil, not enough to wing or whatever. Meanwhile, they're scoring like kind of little downwinder things where they motor off the beach for a kilometer, turn around and ride the bumps back in, which sounds pretty awesome. So anyway, pulled the trigger, ordered one. It'll show up here next week, and then I'll start using it. Of course, I have heard everybody say like, yeah, you can't just get on it and go. It's going to be a learning curve. I believe that, but I also want to believe that I'll be able to figure it out without too much effort. Not effort, I'm happy for the effort, but I do expect to have success on it. I'll probably start off on this like crossover board, 7-foot Nomad, which has really been a game changer for the sup world because it allows me to catch waves way earlier than like the old 6-foot board that plowed water like a freaking snowplow, made getting into a wave impossible unless the wave was starting to jack, which is exactly when I generally don't want to get into the wave. So hopefully Foildrive allows you to get into waves that aren't breaking, never will break, whatever, and be fun. Here on the Outer Banks, we've got tons of coastline, tons of waves that are not just your perfect short board or anything wave, just open beach, outside waves, and challenging conditions. I'm hoping Foildrive is the game changer to take kind of crappy conditions and make them fun conditions. That's the hype, and I'm definitely chugging the Kool-Aid full bore at this point. So that's my expectation. Real quick, my story. East Coast US, shortboard surfer as a teenager, generally frustrated because the waves hold you back a lot unless you've got total freedom. Main thing I remember growing up was you could count on a good swell exactly once a year, and that was the first day of school, which was always a heartbreak. And it seems like that sort of a struggle has gone off and on forever, but then discovered wind sports as a great way to bridge the gap between swells and make use of that energy. So windsurfed for a lot of years, kited for a lot of years, both twin tip and strapless, downwinders, whatever ocean conditions, flat water conditions. Wave supped for a lot of years, supped race for years, been winging for the last few years. That all came pretty naturally. Definitely got me addicted to the foil and the glide of riding bumps. So loving that. And these last few downwinders I've done winging, it's like, man, I would love to not have this wing in my hand so I could just ride the bumps. But the reality is, I don't think at 60, getting up on a paddle's going to happen, at least unless conditions are perfect. And here the conditions, the wind angle and swell angle is generally not perfect. It's usually kind of offshore or kind of onshore. It's not the gorge. So I think Foildrive is going to allow me to get up on a bump and go with it. Will I stick with this board for Foildrive? In my head, I kind of think I will. At least I'll learn on it. But then when I go like looking at all the Foildrive socials, nobody's riding boards like this. They're all down to small, like mid-length or prone boards for everything. So I'm guessing I'll reach that same conclusion after a dozen sessions or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's really all I wanted to capture for my going in. It's supposed to show up this week. I won't do all that unboxing crap. I'll just set it up and probably come back and share some experiences, like how hard it was to set up. And then my first time to get out and putz around on it and things. Again, mostly doing this for myself. Maybe I'll never post it. Maybe I will. Or maybe I will post it and it'll get seen by a couple people and it'll confirm what they've already heard elsewhere, or maybe contradict it somewhat. I don't know. But this is coming from 61-year-old person on the mid-Atlantic east coast of the U.S., Outer Banks, and middle of summer. We'll see what happens. Bye. All right. Just finished first ever Foildrive session. Marc helped me get it all set up at his house last night. We spent like 2 hours doing the setup. I was glad to have someone there who pays attention to details and had some experience with it. So that was awesome. Then this morning we met at the beach. It's like light offshore wind, knee to thigh high, rolling swell. Kind of like perfect. I'm on a pretty big board, not my normal sup foil board that I was planning because the mast tracks didn't really work very well. This is like a 5.2, I think, 88 liter maybe board, extra big and stable. So we went over just like how to get up, did very slow approach, but yeah, it went pretty easy. And I really only intended to go out and like motor around in circles on my belly or something and just learn how the controller worked. But really within 5 minutes, kind of up and e-foiling around, not gracefully, but doing it. And found a couple swells to bank off of, and yeah, highly addictive. So I've got to admit, I had my reservations going into this. But one session basically just makes me want to have a second battery. That's it. So thanks everybody for creating these things. Session 3 was a reality check. It was cross on shore, decent swell. I don't know, steady chest high-ish. Pretty much a fail in terms of being able to get up and ride anything. Session number 2, I'll just leave the camera on the water while I'm talking for a second because Marc's out there. I'm not sure whether you can pick him up or not. Session number 2 is on the sound. Super good session. Getting, all in up on foil, working on pumps, got on a smaller board, his 60 liter 5.4 by like 20. It's a torpedo, awesome axis, whatever. So I went down to the 4.8 code, 58 liters. It was pretty stubby and wide, and man, it was just like really hard to get any speed on that thing to get on my feet. And then when I got on my speed, I was all unstable and eat it. So I got on Marc's board. That had way better speed to get up, so that was better. But once I got on my feet, I was still pretty much off balance, just with the surface conditions. So I came in, partly just because my stomach is torn up. I didn't wear a rash guard, so I figured I'd be doing some arm paddling through this stuff. Just not sure what it's like to go through with a motor on, which I did. And I just didn't want my floppy rash guard flopping around. But man, my stomach, now I remember why rash guards were invented back from the boogie board days. Yeah, so I'm not discouraged, but definitely this was the humble pie session, which is probably a good reality check after having 2 sessions that went better than what it would have been advertised. So that's all I got. Over. All right, so I guess I would call this a redemption session. It's the same day as basically getting denied this morning, or maybe one step better than getting denied, but half a step really. This one, Marc gave me a buzz. They did a downwinder from Loggerhead. His board was there, the 60 liter Axis, that's 5.4 with a triple prop. It's amazing the ease of speed that has above the board I was trying this morning. Conditions were definitely better. There's still a pretty decent swell. kind of short interval, but very consistent, lined up. Nice angle to it, standing up kind of on the outside, no munchers, inside brake was manageable. Size, you know, I'd say it's the chest high set, kind of just nice. And I guess my thing I feel best about, other than just getting out and getting on my feet, was caught a couple swells, popped up, you know, got the motor out of the water, killed the power, just kind of stood there and did nothing, but just cruised for whatever, 5 seconds or something. And then allowed myself to come down and re-engage the prop before touchdown to kind of come down softly and ride away from it. That was after doing like these too much, too little, out of control stuff. And so it was just like, okay, get together and do that. So yeah, pretty happy about that. Other observations, I don't know, it was windy, so the wind was coming from the side. I tried to get up, or I made myself try to get up both into the wind and with the wind, and did it both ways, but with the wind was significantly easier, just more time to just kind of get up. The board with the triple prop and power had more than enough power. It was like made up for lack of skill. So yeah, I'll call this, I guess this is session 4. You know, super happy with it, and you know, yeah, I'm just really excited about this whole new project. So that's all I got for this report. All right, this probably should be my last one of these for a good while. Just came in from another breakthrough. Writing this code 48 and lift, just whatever for the record. Actually, it's a 28 mast, HAX 150, and worked well. Surface conditions were kind of side off at 10 to 15. Nice groundswell standing up on the outside. Would have been a total deny session in traditional methods, but this turned out to be a total swore session. But yeah, never linked so many waves. Of course, the engine helped with that. Up, down, long rides, standing up on the outside and cruising through. So super amazed at this whole progression. And yeah, nothing else to say other than that. I'll check back another day. All right, here's the comparison of the new phaser, which is advertised at 24 wide by 5.2 long, and the code, which is advertised at 4.8 by 23, and they actually measure true to size. Phaser looks thicker, but it's sitting on a higher little cart. Definitely see the length difference. Entry into the front, you know, will that go into the, be a little less plowy? I don't know. I look at the code and I was like, man, that thing shouldn't plow. Looks like it'd be efficient, but it does. Quite a bit of a more narrow tail pulled in with more planing surface in the back than what's on the code, so maybe that will help with economy. Yeah, actually the phaser's a little bit thinner thickness-wise. They claim it's 3.8 at 65 liters, and the code's 4.1 at 58 liters. So anyway, I think this should be a pretty fun try as my new Foildrive mobile. Good morning. I've had a few sessions since the last one of these little video clips, and going well. This is the, I've lost track, but maybe 7th or 8th time going out. I'm gonna head down to Loggerhead in a few minutes. We have a swell that showed up from Hurricane Beryl, which is mind-blowing since it was in the Caribbean. And how that swell gets around and through the Caribbean island chain is beyond me, especially when some of those land masses are pretty big. Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Cuba. Nevertheless, yesterday was, I think they were calling it 2 to 3, but there are definitely some solid chest high sets, super clean, lined up, just kind of like perfect. The fact that it's in July, 4th of July, is also pretty amazing. Just picked up another step today. And so it'll be another test of, what can get away with Foildrive in terms of getting through the shore break and then getting out and riding the swells. Yesterday was fantastic. Really good Foildrive session in the morning. And then in the evening, wind was side off. And it's like, is it wingable? Had my doubts. Definitely had no wind on the inside, but I got lucky getting through the sets, got to the outside, was able to ride outside waves. Had fun, got a little over foiled on some of the speed sections. I was on the 150 HAX. And got lucky getting in, so yesterday was full score. Today, I'm going to try the 120. Thinking maybe it can hold the speed a little better. I think it's going to be pretty fast. Given it's again, fairly legit groundswell. Nothing crazy, but more of a test than anything I've had. Yesterday was probably one of the more legit wave wing sessions I've had. So that was good. That it came off. Board wise, couple thoughts on that. So I'm currently riding compact 5.2, 65 liters, 24 inches wide. Super user friendly. Gets up on foil very easily, so that conserves battery. The nose shape is kind of rounded, pointed, modern, does not plow through the water. Tail release is very smooth and uninterrupted, so that's good. Paddles under my stomach easily at 65 liters and has a good shape, so that allows me to do a little bit of paddling again to conserve battery. Bigger than need it, but I'm happy for the ease of use, and I expect to stick with it for a while. Not really sure where to go board wise. I mean, in my heart, it's like, I think there's got to be a lot of innovations very soon to happen where the battery pods integrated into the bottom of the board and the bottom shape's dialed in and length and width. I'm kind of wanting to drag my feet for that. Battery in the bottom of the board, why does that matter? I mean, clearly you can have a great time without that. But I feel like that battery gives you unnecessary stack height, which raises your center of gravity, which basically doesn't help anything. Getting up on foil, you've got plenty of power, so it's no big deal, but still, drag is the enemy for getting board speed and getting up on foil, so less drag is better. Battery pod up in the board has to be less drag. And then again, if you're belly paddling around some, partly just to get some arm exercise, but also to save battery, I'd rather not be dragging that battery through the water to do it. So there's a guy on YouTube who's doing some DIY boards like that. Kind of think some of the manufacturers are looking at it and trying to figure out how they can do it in a way that accommodates different user preferences for the foils they're riding and all those complicating factors. But half tempted to do a DIY myself, but not ready to tear into a board to do it yet. Anyway, so I'll probably report back something in a couple hours saying whether today was a success or ass kicking. We'll see. That's it. All right, I'll try not to be redundant, but I said I'd probably report back after the session. And first, before I do, one correction is I was wrong on the board. I said it's actually AK durable phaser 5.2, 24, 38. 65 liters. To me, I'm like 165 pounds or maybe a little bit more. Board's like training wheels. The shape of it's efficient. Gets up and goes when I'm in the air. Feels totally fine. So I feel like it's a really good board for my stage of the game. And I started out this morning on this old classic lift HA 120. Actually, the original 120 that was ever prototyped. Didn't like it as much. I thought I would need it for the bigger waves, but this HAX 150, just a little more forgiving. And with the 26 tail on it, the carb, whatever, it's definitely a looser setup. So this felt better. Coming off of a wave for the touchdown, turning on the Foildrive, etc., was just easier on this wing. Try the JJF 130 here, probably in a session or two, which is what Marc was on today. He was loving that. The waves were not as intense as I thought they were going to be. In fact, the The biggest sets yesterday, winging, felt about the same as today. Maybe today had more of that size, but it was just like the perfect outside, standing up, chest high, maybe a little more, but not really. And the break was pretty crumbly. Tide was high, but there, break on the bar decently. And then the trough was deep enough that basically a recovery zone. And then the shore break, got deep right away off the beach. Basically, those conditions that would be frustrating for normal surfing or even sup foiling. There was a side-off wind, probably 15-ish. Would have made catching the waves a total bitch on the paddleboard because the wind would come up the face and just hold you up. Then you'd miss or you'd get pitched. And this was just like ride a wave, go back out, ride a wave, like longer rides probably than ever. So conditions here on the Outer Banks of North Carolina in Nags Head, where I live, remarkably good for this. We've got miles and miles of beach. Surfer congestion's usually only a issue like at the peak that you need to be at for a shortboard. And there's lots of beach in between where we've got a trough, a bar, actually a series of bars that goes out. They don't break on the outside till it gets like big. But yeah, conditions that would have been just like frustrating and crappy. Dream session today. Went through a big battery, came in, took a breather, switched foils, went back out on Marc's sport battery, had a second session on it, and I don't know what else to say. Absolutely fun, game changer. I'm amazed at how naturally this came, but I think a few years of subfoiling and winging in the ocean and stuff has paid some dividends on the learning curve. I mean, this has felt pretty easy compared to what that learning curve was like. So I don't know how that part translates over. But again, I'm 60. I don't have illusions of like ripping great turns or anything. I'm just going to be cruiser guy. And I was pretty much just cruising on the waves today, trying not to explode. In fact, some of the waves kind of feel like like a downhill ski race or something. Like you're like slightly crouched, keeping your weight just right, and picking that line to looking where the wave's going so that you have an exit strategy or whatever. Yeah, really super. That's it. So yeah, signing off. If I feel like I've got something else to share relevant to all this after a session, I will. But again, these are all unscripted, probably redundant, whatever, rambly, stream of consciousness, but that's kind of what this little diary blog is. And again, maybe I'll assemble it all and put it together, or maybe I won't. I haven't decided yet. Adios.